So we're now going to start prepping the model ready to start the actual rigging of this character. And before we do that, we've been looking at the process of skinning the character. This is actually the skin file, and as you can see, I've got the geometry referenced in, hence the geo prefix. And I've also got the skeleton, which is driving the mesh. Yes, there is tweaking required, but that's okay. Essentially, as you start the skinning and skin weighting process, you can actually start the rigging at the same time. And this is the beauty of the referencing system, is that you can start the skin weighting, you can start the rigging, connect them together, and then when you finish the skin weighting, it'll update in your rig. And so it kind of allows not a true parallel pipeline where everybody's working on the same things at the same time. You do need the proportions of the model to really get the skeleton going, but once you've got that, then you can start the rig. And that's why I use referencing all the time. So let's say, for example, this is we're now ready to start looking at this for rigging. If you remember in an earlier video, we duplicated the skeleton and saved it, removed the geometry so that it's just the skeleton on its own, and we saved that in the rig file, and we'll come to that shortly. And that rig file is the basis for all our rigging. Last little bit of preparation for the skin. As you can see, you've got the geo group and all the separate geometry, and we've got the skeleton, and that's got the prefix skin, so make sure you give it a good prefix. The rig skeleton will have a prefix rig, so there's no confusion there. And lastly, what I do as a final cleanup is to select those, group them together, and let's call this skin underscore group. Okay, and that means that when you reference it in, you've got the skeleton nicely organized and the geo nicely organized as well, and it stops your files getting really messy in the outliner. So I always use group nodes to organize my outliner, sort of parent things together and keep things nice and organized that way. Okay, so this is the skin file, so I will again save scene as Frankie, so that's the master file. Any working files you save as 01, 02, 03, etc., and they're your working files, and then when you're ready to feed it through the referencing, call it Frankie without any prefix. Okay, so that's the skin nicely prepped. Obviously you will spend the time and do the skin weighting and get that sort of nice and polished. Okay, so now I'm going to open up the duplicate skeleton that I saved in the rig folder. Again, I called it Frankie. Let the folders take their name, and as you can see, it's the skeleton on its own. There's no geometry referenced in, and I replace the skin prefix with rig prefix. Okay, so that's all ready to go. You can actually start the rigging, and then when you've finished it, reference in the skin folder, but let's just say as a process I'm going to do it now and just have it there. So to reference in the skin, go to File, Create Reference, and let me set this, let's reset it. So don't forget, the best way of organizing your referencing is to use under the namespace options. I always use the middle one. That will give you the prefix. Okay, So again, name it meaningfully. I always give the prefix, capitalize the letters, and keep it short so that you can recognize it in the outliner when it comes through. Okay, so reference, and I'm going to reference in this from the skin folder, Frankie. Okay, and there we go. And as you can see, that prefix keeps things nice and organized, and that's the group that I just set up. And underneath there's the skin skeleton and the geo under there. So just to show you how the file is made up, if I just select the group and just move it to one side, okay. So effectively, you've got the skin skeleton, which is driving the geo, and then these two are referenced in to this skeleton, which is the rig skeleton. Okay. This rig skeleton is where I'm going to put all the controls for IK/FK arm switching. I'll have 3 arm chains, so you can do whatever you want in the rig. And at the end of the day, the rig skeleton will be driving the skin skeleton. Okay, and it just keeps everything nice and organized, and ultimately, if I just zero that out, okay, everything sits on top of each other as it should. Now that I've got that referenced in, I can actually hide it because I'm just going to be working on the rig skeleton. Okay, all ready to go. So before we go any further, let's just save this as, let's call it Frankie 01 and save as. So all my working files will be 01, 02, 03, etc. And then when I'm ready to publish it, I will save over the original, which is Frankie, and that's the file that the animators will start to access. Okay, so that's all now ready to go. Yes, it recognises the I've started with my 2016 for this video, exactly the same, nothing really different in terms of the processes that we'll use, but I just thought let's update it while it's around. Okay, so we're ready to start rigging.